Hey there, Lorcana lovers, my name's Lizard, and in this video we will be ranking every legendary card in Lorcana, starting with the first chapter. To help provide you with insightful conversation around this topic, I have two highly skilled players joining me today, Frank and Tony. So let's get into it. I am excited to have both of you with me. Both of you are people that I met rather recently after joining the league here at our local town. Both of you guys are probably about as competitive as it gets when it comes to card games. I don't know if I've ever really beaten one of you in a match yet, let alone both of you, but that's exactly why your input is highly valued while we make this tier list. So I'm happy to have you guys here.
Happy to be here.
Yep, glad that I could be here and hang out and talk cards.
So without further ado, how about we start with good old Mickey Mouse. Brave little Taylor. I'm thinking he goes right into either the A or B.
Kind of leaning towards B, honestly. Like, he saw a little bit of play early on in the Ruby Amethyst decks, and he was a legitimate threat when he came down. But there was just so much more you could do with that 8 lore, or that 8 ink, that bringing him down was just a little bit too little too late.
Right.
Yeah, B was about where I was feeling. Like, I was even tempted to go as low as C, but like, just, he has a great thing going. He quests for a good chunk. He's got okay 5/5 stats are not terrible, and the evasive's always icing on the cake. But yeah, right now, just, he doesn't do anything when he comes down. So like, yeah, he's a nice threat for that, but like, if most matchups have either a way to outpace him or just straight up remove him, so he's just gone, and it's just a sad little Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're in a situation where, you know, your opponent, you get him down on your turn 8, and say your opponent went first, so they're getting 9 ink, and chances are they might also be playing Ruby, and then they bring down Maleficent, and he's gone. So I think B is a nice cozy spot for Mickey Mouse for the time being.
Yeah, I think as we have the list go on, we might even see him go to the bottom of B, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on, shall we? How about we move to another card that I wanted to be good, but just wasn't quite there, and that is this Beast legendary card. The artwork is fantastic. I do love it. But honestly, I would think he belongs even lower than the Mickey Mouse. Maybe sits in the C tier.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Like, the light is on the horizon for him, with a couple of the fun leaks and just cute ideas that are coming around with what could be coming out, but just, it's so hard to follow up something that gives him the value he needs, especially now when you have other set 2 gave us a better Beast, in my opinion, and he's just dusted on the shelf at the moment.
Yeah, and we'll obviously get to that Beast when the time comes, but you're absolutely right. Emerald as an ink in general is getting better and better, but whether or not something else is going to fight him for that slot, you know, Andy's uninkable, so I think C for now. That's where you're going to be, Beast.
I think so too. Like, his cutest synergies are in Steel. Like, you can do some silly things with Tink and everything, but he's just a little too much setup to get going.
Right. Yep. Okay. Well, for everybody that's watching, you've probably noticed we have a Gone To tier. Unfortunately, Gone To is our bottom tier, and absolutely nobody is happy to be in the Gone To tier. So let's go ahead and just put him there. There is something to be said. I'll let you guys, whoever wants to start, and tell us what you think about good old Gone To.
Well, we have the tier for a reason. He's I mean, he's 8 ink. He quests for 2. He makes 2 or less cost characters not be able to challenge, which is pretty rough. You're already playing a 6/6, so challenging is kind of irrelevant at that point. He's just not good.
Nah, poor guy.
He's an amazing 5 cost 4/4, but he costs 8 instead.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's well said. Sorry, Gone to. Wish you were better, man. I really do.
He's the king of too little, too late. If it's turn 8 and you're worried about things that cost 2 or less going after you, you probably already won.
Well, yeah, and if it's me playing, I tend to, I'd be drawing him in my opening hand. I would mulligan 3 away and get 3 Gontus back into my hand, so he'd be really good at making ink. And that's that's
you're
about
set
it.
for the first 3 turns. Everything else you draw, you just gotta hope you're playing it.
And I won't even feel bad about it. Okay, so let's move to a character that I think is probably going to be our first S tier character for this video, and honestly, I think Rapunzel, she maybe hasn't seen as much play, but I think she's just an awesome card. There's a lot of value here, especially with the new interaction with Mother Gothel. As fun as that is, it also just works really well if you're playing the Ruby Amber Mufasa build. Getting Mother Gothel out on turn 3, and she already comes out with the damage. Then you're set up perfectly for turn 4 Rapunzel, drawing 3 cards. She's got a big butt, and she quests for 2. When I say big butt, I mean, she's got 5 willpower.
Good old 5. Yeah, willpower. That's it.
Toughness, willpower.
So used to magic terms.
But
yeah, I think.
Go ahead.
I think she's really solid. Right now in the meta, she's a little tough to play. Like, I don't know a ton of decks that are running her. Steel Song's still playing her.
Yeah, I think some people are still playing her in Steel Songs.
Yeah.
But she's, like I said, she's definitely got a nice spot in the Ruby Amber build. Other than that, I've even seen her being run in the Emerald Amber Mufasa build.
If you're ever building Amber, the first 4 cards on the stack are always going to be her. I mean, taking a quick look at the pricing right now, there's a reason she's still the second most valuable card in all of Lorcana right now. Like, even with Mufasa, if you're putting the Mufasa down, like, technically you want to banish Mufasa to get that free flip off the top, but, like, being able to choose when that happens is so powerful. And I think the one thing that doesn't get as much, like, honor when looking at her is the fact that you can challenge with something on your turn in order to bring their health lower, turn it into, even if it doesn't take them out, just to get that damage marked on them and easily take something else out and just draw 3 just because you did what you already wanted to do.
Right.
It's just really hard to beat that kind of value.
Yeah. Also synergy with Teeth and Ambitions. Like, she's just crazy.
Yep.
So much draw power.
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, I'm not surprised hearing you say she's, number 2, the most valuable. That's not including enchanted cards, but yeah, she's held her place up there. She was the most expensive for a very long time, but great card. I think she definitely belongs in that S tier, and I'm happy with that. Okay, let's move to another card that I think could potentially rival the value of Rapunzel, and that would be Elsa. I'm popping her up there in the S tier, and I don't know if I'd want to put her in front of Rapunzel or not. That's a tough call. But she saw a lot of play in set 1, and she's continuing to have a really nice spot carved out for her in Floodborn and just about every Ruby Amethyst deck. she's a very, very good card.
Her effect is pretty crazy, but not like, I don't know. She just that top end and having to shift into her or something. Like, you can't really cheat her out or anything. She's uninkable. She's just a little rough. Like, and I still think she's at least A tier.
Okay.
But I think I don't know. I don't know. What's your thoughts, Frank? You play more Ruby Amethyst, so.
Yeah, I all of set 1, I was pretty much on the deck. She's amazing. I also believe she's either A or S. I think she's great, but no more than 2 ofs, because as mentioned, she's uninkable, which is hard. You're never going to shift her out still. The options to shift from are so, like, they're not what you want to see ever.
Yeah.
She will never lose you a end game, though. Like, I've had games where they've had 19 lore, 18 lore, and I won anyway because a timely Elsa just said, they don't quest this turn, and next turn I'll worry about taking them out.
Right.
And
yeah.
she puts in a lot of work, but she's a 2 of, but I think she's no lower than A. S is a coin flip for me.
Okay, so with Tony saying absolutely A, Frank saying it could be either or, and me saying S, let's split the difference. And for now, let's put her in A.
I will say we'll put her in A, but I think my opinion on her is probably the lowest. I don't touch anywhere near control decks in this game, so that's just not my speed for this game. But
right,
I think she's like definitely top of A at least.
I don't think there's anyone who beats her in A tier. Like, she's definitely top of A, just because if you're building a deck that wants her, you toss 2 in pretty handily.
right.
Yeah.
But like, it's right now, there's just, with the current control options, there's just, you'd rather be prepared than play an Elsa and establish a better threat later. I think she fights in control, Ruby Amethyst control right now. She fights, in my opinion, with Lady Tremaine, who we'll talk about on that later date. But just, she's a little too expensive when I want to just see something gone. I don't want to have to pull a second card to deal with it later sometimes.
I get that, yeah.
Okay, yeah, and honestly, my experience, it doesn't come from playing with an Elsa in my deck. It comes from me playing my wife, who has had an Elsa in her deck since we started playing, and oh man, so many times it's been like you explained earlier, right at that late game, I'm convinced I'm gonna win. I'm basically, cleaning up my cards, saying good game, and she's like, Elsa, you're frozen. I'm like, oh no,
backbreaking.
How do I?
But when she comes down, she matters.
Yeah,
she just puts you on ice, stops you dead in her tracks.
Yeah.
It's just with some of the speed right now. If she's coming down, there's probably either more things that need to be taken care of, or just with bounce running rampant. Yeah. She's so hard to get the value out of, because it's like, oh no, I'll put them back in my hand, and so like, it's the current like meta. The bounce package really what dinks her down to that A. Just takes just ever so slightly enough off that she's the queen of A tier.
Queen of A.
Through and through.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Let's move on to, how about John Silver? Like we said earlier, Emerald it's moving up. He has a similar on play, and when he quests, right? He gives an opposing character Reckless, so that is effectively stopping them from questing. But it does force them to swing on your characters, so it's not quite as great as Elsa, and Elsa, of course, is freezing 2 characters. He did see a lot of play in the first chapter. He was an auto include in that Cusco, was it the Lemon Lime aggro deck for a while there.
Yeah.
But as of right now, I think he's sitting pretty low, maybe C or B.
I think he occupies C, not because he is bad, but because the current options are just not good for him. If I think Emerald, I'm almost certainly thinking it's going to be a discard strategy, because just Emerald's a little bit of a grab bag right now. It has a lot of things that it's really fun with, but it doesn't have something. But I think it's more the fault of the decks that are really seeing play in Emerald that puts him to C, just because you don't want them putting a thing down. He's super nice if you're in that like middle of the game, just like a
Right.
little bit of tit for tat. Like, I'll just take out this one for now because it quests for a lot. But it's more like
Well,
you mentioned,
you know what is nice though? If you're running more of an aggro build with your Emerald, and Emerald gives you access to some pretty nice evasives now. If he's making your opponent reckless, that's not going to matter so much because chances are they're not going to have an answer to your evasive character. So he is basically just making it so they can't quest or challenge if he's coming down on a board where you're loaded with evasives and they didn't have an answer for that. So in that situation, he's great. But like you said, there still just might be better things to run in his spot.
yeah. People are also prepared for evasive because of that the mini Surfer mini has been around, but Steel always has just they'll deal damage to everything anyway. Like the evasives are really good if no one can answer it, but if someone can answer it, he's a Jasper. He's a better Jasper by and far, but he still just struggles to get you that real big wallop whenever he comes in.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
Yep.
seconded. He's basically a tiny Elsa, but
Well,
not quite getting there.
He's a pretty big boy, but I see what you mean.
Yeah, yeah, close to Elsa, but
Like, it's also just as a fun aside. Treasure Planet, I was over the moon when I saw that he was even printed. Just seeing some represented from Treasure Planet, I was like,
Yes.
I was just sitting there bated breath waiting to see what else we get. Like, I think he's definitely going to have some really solid options when set 3 starts to roll,
Yeah,
because he's going to be protecting a lot more than characters.
true. And we're seeing a lot more
That's a good
Treasure
point.
Planet as well, which is very exciting. I'm right there with you. Treasure Planet has been one of my favorite Disney movies of all time. That and Atlantis. Honestly, I couldn't be more
So
excited for this next set. It's going to be
And that
pretty
2
cool.
for 1.
Pretty cool indeed. But okay, let's move on then. How about we talk a little bit about Ursula? I think recently she has earned her spot right next to Elsa, in my opinion. These Ruby Amethyst decks running Ursula get a lot of value out of her, especially with her having 8 willpower.
crazy.
Most often she's getting you a card draw and taking away a lure from your opponent, and she quests for 3. And I know she's uninkable, but she's what, 7 cost to bring down? Elsa's 8. So yeah, that's a pretty awesome card. So I might even maybe not put her. Do we put her in front of Elsa? I mean, we did say she was the Queen of A.
I don't know. I think Ursula's like you said, super close. That quest for 3 willpower, like 8 willpower, is just insane. And she just can kind of dominate the board, especially with the like bounce package of Ruby Amethyst. I don't know if she's better than Elsa though. Like, I think those types of decks still. That's kind of the big debate: is do you play Ursula or do you play Elsa? Do you play something that gets you through the deck and puts a better threat on the board, or do you just control throughout the game at every ink?
So, since S is going to be our auto include, the hardest part is looking at them like this. Her and Elsa have very different roles. I would slap 2 Ursula in every Amethyst deck just for the sake of, honestly, when you see her, that 1 lore drain doesn't sound like a lot. It hurts. Like, it saves you a lot. Especially now, the current meta leaving an opponent on 19 lore is terrifying against any Amethyst, because they just drop a goat and you lose. But when you drop if they're at 19 and you play an Elsa, you lose to goat. But if they're at 19 and you play an Ursula, you might just win anyway.
True.
Like you might be able to get that edge, and I think it's based mostly meta dependent, and her ability to swing a game for your favor is huge, especially because she can sing Be Prepared. Like it's 3 lore, or she sings Be Prepared after drawing you a card and draining a lore.
Right, yeah. It sounds to me like we're moving in a direction where we need to actually have both of these characters in our auto include tier, and maybe even have Ursula in front of Elsa. They may be bumped down as we get into the second part of this with the rise of the Floodborn legendaries, but I don't know. What do you guys think? It sounds like when you're constructing a Ruby Amethyst build, you're most likely going to absolutely include one of these characters in your deck. If not, if not both of them. That might be a little much, but
Definitely. Unfortunately, I wish I could have both, but you definitely can't. I think it's a bit of a different flavors thing. Like that Ursula's good. I think meta dependent. If you're playing at your local shop and there aren't as many like very aggressive decks, if everyone's playing around like trying some fun combos and seeing what shenanigans they can get up to, Elsa's buying good and away in the S tier. But if everyone is getting a little cutthroat and they're starting to muscle their way in there, Ursula will do you wonders.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at the top 8 and the top 16 from that Beauty and the Beasties.
yeah.
Lorcana I think that was on
That was
what's that?
Pixelborn. That was in fact on
Pixelborn.
Pixelborn. That was I participated in that tournament, and I'll tell you right now, there were a lot of Ruby Amethyst, and I actually saw Ursula more than I saw Elsa.
Yeah, and that's what the top decks are showing too. Like, I'm seeing Elsa really only at 1, and then Ursula 2 at 2, Ursula at 3. Like,
yeah,
they're definitely leaning more towards Ursula than Elsa for sure.
I think that you made the right culture. I think pushing them both up to the S tier for the time being works. Because like I said, it's very much meta dependent. I would love to top deck an Elsa late game, but I also understand that like that Ursula I understand the deep mechanical part of why Ursula speaks to me more in the dragging them back down to your level thing while still replacing herself. Like, I love to play them both, love to see them both. I want to see an Ursula in my top deck. I may not be too thrilled if I see a Elsa, but I'm still gonna be happy putting them both in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, then I feel a little bit empty now with this A tier. I'm going to move something there that I think we could probably agree on. This used to be an auto include. However, Maleficent's Dragon, with the introduction of Lady Tremaine and the whole bounce package, this card just comes online a little bit too late sometimes. I think we're seeing less and less of them being included in the Ruby Amethyst. I think, granted, it is inkable, but Lady Tremaine does the same thing and she comes down on 6.
I'll also say, I strongly disagree. I have had 4 Maleficent in every deck I've built since set 1.
Really?
The big thing that makes it is she's always inkable, and yeah, Tremaine is amazing. Don't get me wrong. I am a passionate player of Be Prepared, next turn Lady Tremaine, whatever you play.
It's so dirty. I can't stand it. Nope. I hate it.
It's so nasty.
Yeah. Just play 2 things later. That's it.
I know.
Wait another turn.
Sometimes you can't, though. Sometimes you can't. Especially if you're running a deck that doesn't lean into heavy card draw. I mean, at that point in the game, you're pretty much you're playing your top deck or off the top of your deck.
Which also brings me to the point of, let's look at the math for a quick second. Assuming you're playing Be Prepared on turn 7 every time.
Okay.
If your opponent tries to play around getting Tremained, they're going to wait to the next turn 9, to play 2 people to protect their favorite child.
Correct,
yeah. That's when you bring down the Maleficent.
And now you play your Maleficent on curve, and you pick which one you want gone.
Yeah.
And so it's like, my favorite thing about the way Control plays right now is that it's board wipe and then it's mind games and putting people between a rock and a hard place.
Exactly.
It's
yeah.
like you're afraid of every answer I could have, but you got to play around one of them. And which one is it going to be?
Right. Well, I guess our A tier is going to remain empty for a little while. Now, do we put Maleficent above the Ursula and the Elsa, even? If you're saying you run 4 of, like I said, I don't play Ruby Amethyst, but my wife does, and she runs 2. Now, that's more so just because those are the only 2 we've pulled, and she's always been kind of a pricey card, so we haven't bitten the bullet and just bought 2 more, but I don't know. Above?
I think she hits that
below?
second spot.
Okay.
I think she does. Yeah, I think her being inkable is so huge. Like, because that's the issue with a lot of your top end curve in Ruby Amethyst is it's not inkable. Like your Be Prepareds, your Elsas, your Ursulas, all of that stuff is not uninkable. So
True.
having just a big thing that's never dead, really solid.
Yeah. Well, see.
I have inked more Maleficent than I've played, and if she were not inkable, I would put her in the gun. Like, I wouldn't put her in Gontu. I won't be that cruel. But she would fall from grace immediately if she couldn't be inked.
Yeah.
Because just it's so good to play when you can play it. But other than that, I love top decking her because I'm like, well, now I know what I'm inking this turn.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, see, this tier list would have looked a lot different if I didn't have the help from some other highly competitive players, so I'm glad y'all are here. That's for sure. How can we fill the A spot? Maybe,
I know.
just maybe, Stitch can have a good spot there in A. He was an auto include, but I don't know that he's being run in every Amber Steel deck now. That's for sure. I think there's other things beating him out. There are still Amber Steel decks that do like to have a really wide board, so by the time Stitch would be coming out, you're definitely going to get that card draw. He also has an astronomically high willpower. I don't know if there's much better than 8. I think maybe that Goofy has 9. That's about as good as it gets.
10.
Yeah, I think it's 10.
10. Oh my.
So silly.
All 10.
Well, what do you think? A tier for Stitch, or is he another S tier?
I don't think he can breach S right now because just decks are so dependent on, like, you can't always guarantee a full board, but like if you're in that middle of the round, he's always going to be good if you're like, I could use just a little bit of something that's a body when I need it, but can draw me 2 cards when I can earn that.
Right, and you know what?
Yeah.
There's a lot of steel being played in combinations now. It's not just Amber Steel like it was for a long time. I'm seeing a lot of Amethyst Steel and Emerald Steel, and having the grab your sword and things. They really have kind of humbled the steel songs, the steel wheel decks. For it's not very often you're going to have that wide board that you want, is what I'm getting to, with the opposing player also having access to the grab your swords and strength of a raging fire, let the storm rage on. All of these things are just continuously wiping out your board state, or at least keeping you under control to a degree. So he's definitely harder to get the value that he once provided.
Yeah, still think he's solid A though. He's like drawing 2 cards in a deck that wants to go wide already is like, that's why Amber Amethyst is even like Hyper Aggro is even a deck, because Friends on the Other Side is a silly card. So if we could easily get to Stitch ink in that deck, we would be playing the Stitch. Like,
right. Now, if we're going just based on which card I like the best in terms of artwork, Stitch is going right. Oh, he's going to go right here. Rapunzel, get out of the way. What's happening? That's where he belongs. That is, in my opinion, the coolest card. But
so cool. Oh, his enchanted art is so good too.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Yeah.
But we're not basing this off their artworks. That could be a fun video in the future, but that's pretty subjective. I think we'd have quite a lot of disagreeing people here.
If I can interject, also thinking for a moment, because when we established, we were like, S is going to be our auto includes, A is going to be like, they're just nice. Like they're always like a good, like, thinking about it card. It's like, I could, but part of me kind of wants to swap B and C a little bit, because for us, B was just good and it's situationally good.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm fighting over the cards that have potential in the future. You know what? No, because like again, I'm looking at them and I'm like, Surfer Stitch also has an honorary like little star on his corner, saying like all we need is one good thing coming out soon, and I think Surfer Stitch could be a contender for S if Amber gets that oomph. But it's just hard. I'm a sucker for what they could be, and I'm like, I feel sad seeing our Beast and John Silver down low, but I think that's just my heart bleeding for him.
Yeah. Hey, that's understandable, man. And like you said, when the time comes, if they've earned their spots in a higher position, we will certainly make a new video and happily put them there. But as of right now, where it stands, you're probably gonna put a different card in your deck. They might. They're just not there yet, or rather, they might have been at one point, but not anymore. John Silver specifically. Beast, I don't know if he was really ever quite there, but
no.
Okay.
Poor guy was probably the second saddest one to pull off of that, but yeah. I think like Surfer Stitch, when the deck supports him, I don't think there's anybody else that's gonna be quite as nice in that slot, but I don't think the deck is prevalent enough to earn him that S, so he's definitely solid gold right in that A tier.
But like you said, it is really cool just how much things can change sometimes overnight. You know, you get the results from a big tournament and all of a sudden everybody's teching for a certain card that was completely going under everybody's radar, and deck lists change pretty frequently now. So I think that's great. I think that's great for the overall feel of the game. It doesn't feel stale, you know. It's nice to see old cards become useful, things that you didn't ever think would see play. All of a sudden, it's like, for instance, this next one we can talk about, the Bell. When I first saw this enchanted card, I'm like, wow, that card's broken. She's going to be great. But Sapphire just didn't have all the tools necessary yet to really see the value of this card. However, now with the Sapphire Steel build, I think she's sitting pretty nicely in the A tier, especially when she pops off. She's good for ink, she's good for making ink, and if you have the ink, she's going to quest you to victory. So I think that she sits in the A tier now, personally.
Fully agree. I think she's just one of the best cards you can see in your opening hand in Sapphire. Like, just that extra ink every turn, especially with any card draw engines. Right. With your whole new worlds and I even think in like an Amethyst Sapphire build or something, like she puts in a ton of work.
Yeah, I'm happy to see her at any point in the game. That's what makes her so cool, is she's got early game value and she's got an awesome amount of late game value as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, Belle, she goes above Stitch, no hesitation, just because of she is what's my favorite card type. You've heard of a bombshell, but she's a lightning rod. If you play a Belle down, every single time the first thought that's going into anyone's head is, ooh, do I need to deal with that?
Right, yeah.
And the overall fear of like not dealing with it is very strong. Because like as the Belle player, you're sitting there going, "Oh my God, please remove her. I have nothing else, and I only have one other option. Ramp's not winning me this game, but this other card in my hand will. Please be afraid enough to get rid of her, so you don't get rid of the other thing."
Right. Yeah. Yeah. She's good bait. Real good bait.
Yep. She's just a threat.
Yeah.
If you play her late, like you said, Belle and a Quill can threaten immediately going off. Like if it's only 7 and you're like, "Oh, it's only 7, that's fine." And they play all, I think it's a proper perfect 7 is Belle plus Quill. It's whoops.
Yeah.
That's 10 on the board now. And so it truly says deal with her or I'm a quarter of the way to victory. Even better, it's turn 8. You just got Wheel. You got a whole new world. Looking at all these cards. You know what's a cool thing? I'm gonna play 2 Belle.
Yeah. Holy moly.
And it's she threatens no matter when she shows up. She definitely has a much better place. You called it Steel. Steel is her better half. That super explosive card draw is so nice for her.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially because she empties your hand.
That was exactly
is,
it. That was the biggest problem, was having an empty hand. Great, we can ramp, but before the decks were really ironed out, you'd come up with nothing to play. You'd have all this ink and no card draw, so it was just constantly bone dry. Your options were very few and far between, and now with the pairing of Steel, that's exactly what she needed, and boy does she do some great work.
Yeah, she's a monster with the new beast too, the sad beast.
Yeah,
like hitting your ink every turn, feels incredible.
And like I think one last thing, just adding on her set 1 debut, I think that she was their diamond in the rough. Like I think like I've heard tell that way. It was like I think that how they were releasing the sets really got shuffled a little bit. And so I think she got put into the first one because like, all right, we need big hitters that are gonna bring people in.
Okay, yeah.
And I think she got put there because if she was in set 2, that was her home. Like once we get to the next set, she had so many buddies that can like help her get where she needs to go.
Yeah.
And give her that gas, get her going. Like I'm beyond over the moon about the idea of like the cool things you're going to be able to do as we get more and more stuff that's just going to give her that extra boost.
It's fun that Beast is the card that helps her so much as well.
It's so flavorful. Oh, I didn't even think. Oh my goodness, that just came.
Yeah.
Just that wonderful. I love the lore synergy too.
Everything's there. Okay, well, I don't have anything else to add on Belle at the moment. I think that's a good spot for her.
She's a very solid card.
Yeah, she's only going up from here. I don't think. Like I said, she's a lightning rod, and the more cards we get that ramp, the more she's just gonna come out swinging.
Yep. I agree. Let's talk about Tikka for a minute here. I don't want to end on a card like Tikka. Gontu needs a friend, y'all. I'm sorry. At least you're not the only one, Gontu.
Is he better than Gontu though? That's really the question.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Is it better
Tikka
than Gontu?
is.
We'll put her.
He's a little bit better than Gontu. He's at least 6 cost.
Yeah, it's not saying much. It's not saying much, but. And I remember seeing that Moana card. I saw that before I saw the Tikka. And the Moana that lets you banish chosen character named Tikka. And I'm like, oh, something tells me there's going to be a really strong Tikka card. This is going to be great.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting.
We're waiting.
Or is it?
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? Hold my tongue. They did add more Moana stuff in set 3. We might actually this might actually come to bite us in the future. We might not be waiting too much longer.
That's true. I saw that the reveal of the playmat, but that's after she returns the heart of, what is it, Tahiti? I think it's Tahiti.
Defeaty, yeah.
Heart of Defeaty.
So at that point, Tekka is no more. But yeah, will we see another one in set 3? That's interesting. That would be cool.
We get a good Dreamborn Taka.
Ooh.
See what would have happened had they never gotten the heart back.
Yeah, that's more like Nightmare.
That would be kind of cool.
Nightmare Born, yeah. But okay, so we've got one more down here. Hades. Like we were saying earlier with this Sapphire being as prominent as it is now, finding its place, Hades, in my opinion, is a definite A tier. He might even be S tier. I think he's pretty much an auto include for most Sapphire decks.
Yeah, pretty much every like solid Sapphire Steel build is playing him as a top end. Like he's so good.
I like honestly put him with Elsa.
Yeah. Yeah, I could agree with that.
Yeah, I'll let Tony also finish his point. I actively play this Hades, so I'll wait to the end.
I honestly think we're back at Elsa being the queen of A tier. Maybe. I don't know. I feel
so. At least move her below the Hades.
Yeah, I think so. I think just maybe I'm off on that, but like having the ramp package of Sapphire bringing that Hades down way earlier, and just eliminating any threat your opponent has, no chance getting it back, it's gone.
Now something
really wild.
Something I will say, I don't play the Hades. I also don't play Sapphire, but do you feel bad giving your opponent an extra ink, or at that point, are you already so far ahead that that's really not something to worry about?
So I'll talk through a little bit like why I play. First, I think actually he does go just behind Elsa for this sake, because they're both different reasons. Like I said, she is Queen of A tier. He sticks with her because of the slot. I don't ever really feel good ramping him out, because the bigger purpose and the thing he does in a lot of decks is he's, again, post-board wipe control. I play specifically Ruby, Sapphire. I fell in love with Popsicles when they came out in set 2. And so he's another one that I keep in the backup because he's just really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it technically gives them that ink, but after 7, there's nothing that's more expensive than 7 that somebody who really wants it isn't gonna see already. And just saying, ooh, that one particular character is really difficult for me to deal with, just being able to remove them is so nice. And specifically, it's the fact that Magic, you may hear the term on a stick, but anybody who has a really solid effect and is also a body as a character, quests or fights, is so much stronger than that previous spell in some cases, because it's like, would I rather have a Let It Go or would I rather have a Hades?
Right.
And I'd rather have a Hades.
Right, I see. Yeah, I hear a lot people say, like, for instance, Hades is Let It Go on a body. That's what I hear for Lorcana.
I think the last thing I do also want to add, the reason I say they get glued together as well is he's a great 2 of. Like, I definitely feel like there are decks that don't need him. The same way people sometimes don't need Elsa.
Okay, so then
but like,
that, just from saying that's telling me that Elsa is not an auto include, and that Hades sometimes is not an auto include. If that's the case, they're back down in the A tier.
It's meta dependent. Like, if you're not in Ruby Sapphire, I definitely see an A tier for Hades. The same way that, like, if you're not in like Ruby Amethyst, you may not see the pull of an Elsa. It's like they're very good in the deck that wants them, and that's why it's like the hard part of Elsa being A tier, S tier is that when she's good, she's amazing, but you have to want her to make her really beat them up.
Yeah.
I will say, taking a look at tournament results, which again, that's more of a blind meta. Hades, every single Sapphire Steel deck that I've seen is playing him. Pretty much
Oh,
which is pretty much every Sapphire deck is playing him.
Oh, because you can quill him away for ink.
He's quillable, yeah. Like I think he's an auto include. I think he's an auto include status.
Yeah, I didn't know he was seeing that much play in Steel. I've only just recently thought about playing Steel. I just rounded out a playset or two, and I've been thinking about that Sapphire Steel list a little bit.
Well,
Yeah,
because
I didn't realize he had that presence in that.
Think about late game removal. You know that is very valuable. You know, Steel offers quite a bit of pinging type stuff. Grab your swords. Tinkerbell into a grab your swords removes a lot, but still Hades could literally take out anything when he comes down. And like you said, with Fishbone Quill, he could also be ink early on. Elsa doesn't have that advantage in the decks that she's being run in. She's gonna be stuck in your hand if you draw her early on, and that's that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that is the perfect way to put I think it's color. I think it's truly the fact that she's Amethyst and he's Sapphire that lets them split up like that.
Yeah, really your only way to answer big single threats in Sapphire decks are Let It Go and Hades. Like, those are it. And you play pretty much play sets of both.
So yeah, I think I'm happy enough with him being at the bottom of the S tier. It is hard to reckon with him going above Elsa, but like we said, color is everything, and we said at the beginning of this, S tier has to be auto include, and Elsa at this point is not an auto include for Amethyst decks.
Yeah, like I love her to pieces. I can't wait to start putting her back in stuff. She does some really cool shenanigans. Honestly, actually, like getting extra ahead, not gonna go deep, but set 3 might see her resurgence. Some of the pieces that are coming out in set 3 might give us the tools to get past some of her more difficult aspects.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what she can do with some other cards that have been spoiled for that set. I think this is a solid tier list, though.
Yeah,
I think this is a solid start.
I agree. I'm okay with this, and for the next video, we will add to it with the Floodborn and see what happens. They might stay where they're at. Probably not, though. I have a feeling they probably gonna move some stuff around, but like I said, we'll do that in the next video. So for everyone who's watching, if you enjoyed this tier list, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and you'll be notified whenever we get the next video up, and see what happens to this tier list. And if this is something that you guys want to see more of, leave a comment, and we'd be happy to do this once or twice with every set. Do a little prediction at the beginning of the set and see how things change towards the end of that meta, but right before the next set would be released. I think we're scheduled to have up to all the way up to set 6 by the end of 2025, which is really cool.
Very exciting.
But more Lorcana is always good.
Absolutely. But like I said earlier, hey, I'm so grateful to have you guys in this conversation. You have a lot of valuable things to add, so I appreciate you guys being here, and I think that about sums it up for this one.